The silent sentinel. The bustling Saturday farmers' market was alive with the hum of chatter, the scent of fresh produce, and the occasional bark of a dog straining at its leash. Families meandered through the stalls, sampling honey, homemade jams, and freshly baked bread. But amidst the pleasant atmosphere, a storm was brewing. A group of bikers, clad in leather vests adorned with menacing patches, rumbled into the parking lot. Their leader, a burly man with a thick beard and an aggressive stance, scanned the crowd with a smirk. They were the Iron Claws, a notorious gang known for causing trouble wherever they went. Their eyes locked onto a man sitting at a wooden table near the produce stand, weighing vegetables for an elderly woman. He was massive, easily over 300 pounds, with a broad chest and arms thick as tree trunks. Dressed in overalls, a flannel shirt, and a wide-brimmed hat, he looked every bit the simple farmer. His name was Jack Whitaker, and for the past 10 years, he had lived a quiet life growing crops and tending to his livestock. What no one knew was that Jack Whitaker wasn't just a farmer. He was a retired Delta Force commander, a man who had seen more battles than most could imagine. He had served in classified missions across the world, had taken down high-value targets, and had survived situations that would break even the toughest men. But that part of his life was over. Or so he thought. The harassment begins. The bikers swaggered up to Jack's stand. The leader, a man named Vince "Crusher" Malley, picked up a ripe tomato and sneered. "This tomato's soft, just like you, old man," he said, tossing it onto the ground and crushing it under his boot. The other bikers laughed. A younger one, with a snake tattoo running down his arm, grabbed a watermelon and hoisted it up like a weight. "How much for this, huh? Or do we get it for free, since you're such a generous guy?" Jack sighed and adjusted his hat. The old lady he had been helping earlier looked terrified and shuffled away. Other shoppers quickly gave the biker space. "Fellas," Jack said in a calm, measured voice. "This here is a market for decent folks. If you're looking for trouble, you're in the wrong place." Crusher leaned in, his breath reeking of alcohol. "And what are you gonna do about it, Grandpa?" The gang erupted in laughter. Jack simply looked at him, his expression unreadable. The awakening of the beast, the bikers weren't satisfied with just insults. Crusher suddenly reached forward, snatching the front of Jack's overalls. "Maybe we take a little tax for using your market, huh? You wouldn't want anything to happen to this nice little setup of yours." The moment his fingers closed on Jack's clothing, time seemed to slow. Jack's right hand moved with blinding speed. His thick fingers wrapped around Crusher's wrist like an iron vice. Before the biker could react, Jack twisted, a sharp, precise motion. A sickening pop echoed through the air as Crusher's wrist dislocated. "Ah!" he screamed, stumbling backward, clutching his limp hand. His men froze in stunned silence. Jack rose from his chair, his massive frame unfolding like an ancient warrior rising from slumber. His eyes, which had once been warm and kind, were now cold, calculating, the eyes of a predator. "Walk away," Jack said, his voice no longer that of a simple farmer. It was a command. But the bikers were too dumb to listen. The reckoning, the young man with the snake tattoo pulled a knife, lunging forward with a wild stab. Jack sidestepped effortlessly, catching the punk's wrist and twisting it outward. The knife clattered to the ground. Before the biker could even react, Jack planted an elbow into his ribs, sending him sprawling to the dirt. Another biker reached into his jacket, probably for a gun. Jack moved like lightning, grabbing a sack of potatoes from the table and hurling it with brutal force. It slammed into the man's chest, knocking the wind out of him and sending him crashing into a table of jams and jellies. The remaining bikers finally realized they had made a terrible mistake. Two of them turned to run. Jack wasn't about to let that happen. He grabbed a wooden crate and flung it with pinpoint accuracy. It struck one of the fleeing bikers in the back, sending him face-first into the gravel. Crusher, still cradling his wrist, scrambled to his feet. "Why, you're crazy, man. You don't know who you're messing with." Jack took a slow step forward. No, you don't know who you're messing with. With that, he reached up, removing his flannel shirt. Beneath it, the tattoos of his past life were revealed, the Delta Force insignia, the Special Forces crest, and a row of tally marks that told a story only soldiers would understand. Crusher's eyes widened in horror. He had just picked a fight with a ghost from the battlefield, a man trained to eliminate threats with ruthless efficiency. Get out, Jack growled. The bikers didn't need to be told twice. They scrambled to their motorcycles, revving their engines and speeding away, kicking up dust in their haste. The market remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, people started clapping. A cheer rose from the crowd, and the old lady Jack had been helping earlier walked up to him, smiling. "Thank you, Mr. Whitaker," she said kindly. Jack just nodded, rolling his shoulders like a bear, settling back into hibernation. "Just another day at the market," he muttered, sitting back down and adjusting his hat. He picked up another tomato, weighing it in his calloused hand. The market returned to normal, but from that day on, no one messed with the quiet farmer ever again. The market, once tense, returned to its familiar rhythm. But something had changed. The local farmers, the vendors, even the regular customers, now looked at Jack Whitaker with a newfound respect. The peaceful, quiet man in the overalls had just shown the world that beneath the surface of his humble life was a force to be reckoned with. As the sun began to set, Jack packed up his stall, his massive hands moving with practiced ease. A soft voice interrupted him as he gathered the last of his produce. Mr. Whitaker, the elderly woman from earlier approached him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You saved us today. We might have been too afraid to stand up to them without you." Jack looked up from his crates, a small, almost imperceptible smile, tugging at the corners of his lips. "You don't need to thank me, ma'am," he said softly, his voice returning to the calm tone of the farmer everyone knew. "I just did what needed to be done." As the last of the market-goers left, Jack lingered a bit longer. He glanced up at the sky, the evening clouds, tinged with the fading light of the day. The thrill of the confrontation had faded, but in its wake, a sense of peace settled in his bones. It felt good to know that his quiet life, though far from ordinary, was one that would be respected. With his cart loaded and his duties complete, Jack turned toward his old pickup truck. Before he got in, he paused for a moment, scanning the horizon one last time. The peace he had fought so hard for had been preserved, and as he drove down the dirt road toward his farm, he knew that he would always be ready to protect what mattered, whether it was a market, a neighbor, or his own sense of right.